Okay, so we have for the table, we're going to start working on the table today. First thing is we'll put the table, and then we will work on the coffee cup, the piece of cake, and then the rest is going to be, the last thing is going to be the purse. So for the table, I have burnt sienna, burnt umber, yellow ochre, titanium buff. So it's going to be a combination going between back and forth between burnt sienna is going to be the color, base color. And I'm going to take, now I'm going to put, the base color is burnt sienna, and then I'm going to dip in it burnt umber and go there in the back, from the back to the front. Sometimes I would add more of the burnt umber, sometimes more burnt sienna, but I don't have to worry too much right now because I can always go back and add the colors I want. So if I don't have enough, if I don't put enough burnt umber, that's okay. I'll go back and add it after. So let's get the color, a color going for now. All right, so we have here a bit of a dark. Let's change. I'm taking burnt umber, putting it here, and that's why sometimes I like to wait for the base color to dry, because this way I don't have to worry about it lifting. Okay. So the table is darker in the back, lighter in the front. Let's take a bit of burnt umber in here. In between those, the pearls that we have, you have to go in between and with the round brush, try to put the color of the table. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. So the color on this side, right where her arm is a little bit lighter here. So I'm using more of the burnt sienna in here. So the best thing to do when you pick up your colors, don't mix them too much on the palette. I mean, if we can always, I mean, if we don't want to put pearls for the verse, we can put a strap, a leather strap on it.
Lael, the way you're applying the color,
Yeah.
is it supposed to look like a pattern?
It's right now I'm just filling. So what I'm doing is if I see that this has, if it's darker right here, I pick up burnt umber with my burnt sienna. So I'm really not concerned about the pattern right now.
But are you gonna end up with a pattern on the table?
Yes, yes, yes. It's not flat. That's why I'm doing more like a dabbing. It's not flat.
Okay.
Yes.
Mine's flat.
Okay. It's not smooth. So underneath the purse, right here, I'm just using burnt umber because the purse is casting a bit of shadow over and down here. And then I'm gonna go pick up some burnt sienna at this point. And I'm gonna start picking up yellow ochre. Put it in my burnt sienna right here, because this burnt sienna, this part here is a little bit highlighted. So we're starting to get some highlights in here, some lighter color. And to keep it from turning pink, because we're using burnt sienna, and if you add titanium buff to burnt sienna, you'll end up with a pinkish color. So to keep it from turning pink, I'm using yellow ochre with my burnt sienna, laying kind of foundation for the color, the highlight that's going to come over. Underneath this plate, let's put some shadow with burnt umber. Again, go back, pick up burnt sienna, yellow ochre, wherever you see a highlight or reflection of anything, just grab some yellow ochre with burnt sienna and put it there. And this will be the first layer. We will highlight more after. If you use a small round brush, you can get a nice texture for the table.
Lay out the camera. Can you lower it? There you go. Thanks.
I need to go this way because I can't. Sorry, I'm still working on the darker colors. Yellow ochre, burnt sienna. Get it here. Right. So I can see the back of the table right here is darker. And I'm going to take a bit of burnt sienna at this point because it's dry. Just going to put a bit of more burnt sienna. Actually, let's put some titanium buff, touch of titanium buff in the burnt sienna, just a tiny little bit so we can see the color. Do you want me to stop a bit? Pause? I can do that.
I'm good.
Okay. You're good?
Yeah, I am. I don't know if you understand.
Okay. Burnt umber with this round brush. Some areas where we're going to put burnt umber in here. And some burnt umber here. Right, so in between the this part here, it's really light in here. So I'm just gonna put a bit of yellow ochre and burnt sienna. So I'm using right now yellow ochre and burnt sienna, and I'm just gonna go in between and just get some texture happening in here and lighter color too. Right, so the front of the table is really light. So right now, I'm going to apply the light color that I'm seeing in front of the coffee mug, coffee cup. I'm using burnt sienna yellow ochre, and I'm just gonna put right now, start putting a bit of titanium buff, and I'm going to do that's too strong, the reflection of that. In the reference, it's the reflection of the coffee cup, but in here I'm going to replace it by the reflection of the plate cake that we have. If you have it there, that would be the reflection. Now, same burnt sienna, yellow ochre, titanium buff, and I'm just going to come here and also put the reflection of the purse on the table. It might look funny right now, putting all of these reflections and you can't see anything. But once we put the color of the coffee cup and cake and the purse, it will look much better. Right. Let's put a bit of highlights in here. Best thing to do at this point is to leave it to dry, and I would put a bit of I would glaze the rest of any detail or any pattern on the table, glaze after instead of putting a heavy paint. Let it dry and we'll glaze whatever we want on top. Because if we keep doing this, it's going to be thick and it's going to look, it won't look like a reflection. Let's leave it like that for now. Okay, so I'm going to paint the trim, burnt umber. Oh dear, this is not going to be easy. And I might have to use a bit of black. Because burnt umber is might not be enough, but we'll see. I'm adding a bit of ivory black to this brown because it's not enough. Brown by itself is too weak. I need that. We're going to need this dark base. Let's let it dry so we can work over it. Right, so titanium buff and burnt umber, round brush. I'm going to put a thin layer right here, layer, I mean thin line. Outer edge. And it turns in. Then there's another one. This is a little bit wider from here in. Then another one, just thinner underneath. Pick up some color. Becomes weaker. Third one, at the bottom. Keeping some of that burnt umber showing through in between. It's sort of, it kind of disappears right here. So right here. Right there. And then I'm going to pick up more of that combination of titanium buff and burnt umber. And I'm going to make my burnt umber weaker by adding, I mean, my titanium buff weaker by adding more burnt umber. And I'm just going to go in the back here. I need some water to make my color thinner. So I'll fix it later on. I'm going to put another line right here. little bit more burnt umber in my titanium buff, because this one here is not clean. There. I'm gonna let it dry. So after doing this, I'm gonna start with the cup, coffee cup. All right. For the teacup, it's supposed to be white. So I'm gonna do combine 3 colors: cadmium yellow light, ultramarine blue, and cadmium red light, and white. So the first thing I'm going to do is mix ultramarine blue, put some yellow in it, and grab some red, put it in. And now I have a color that is kind of really dark. Almost grayish. And for me to see it, I'm going to put white. So this is like a gray color, and it's very nice gray color. There's a kind of a variation in this gray. So now at this point, when I put white, I can gauge if I can see if I want it more on the blue side or more pink. So if I want it more pink, I can add red, and that will push it more towards pink. And I think that's a nice color, more on the pink side, not blue or green. Let's put some white. Yeah, it's a warm gray. Now, acrylic dries really dark, which is good. That's fine, because we can always highlight. So we want the darks, but we don't want it too dark. So I'm going to go kind of medium tone, because this medium tone is going to go darker when it's dry. All right, that's a good gray. That's a really nice gray. Maybe a little bit more red. Nice. Okay. Let's clean this brush. All right. Let's do that. Let's start side. So if this color is the color where the light is, I need to darken my color, because this is where the strong light is. This part is darker, and the plate here is even darker than that. So to do that, I'm going to take again some blue, yellow, red, and that will give me a darker gray. Even, okay. And over here, This is light. We're going to highlight this more. All right. Right, now let's take some of the light color and add some white to it. And while I'm highlighting this with white, I'm just going to put in a tiny bit of red. That will just kind of tone it down and it doesn't look too white. Now, wipe my brush. I'm going to come here. This cup, the size of the cup I'm working on right now, because it's 8 by 10, it's really small.
Yeah, it's small.
So, yeah, so for me to be able to get some, you know, lights and darks happening in here, it's not going to be easy, but we can do it. So the sides of the cup inside of the side, both sides here. Oh, hold on. Here and here are darker because it turns. I know in the picture or in the reference, it looks really light all the way. It's not. Actually it is lighter here, and as soon as it start turning, it becomes darker. So if we take the reference and we change it to black and white, you will see it. All right, now, and even in the reference, you can see that this white cup is not really white. It's a grayish white. Take some of the dark gray, start mixing it here, blending it here with the strong white that I put inside in the middle. Again, same here. It turns. Once it starts turning, it's gonna become darker. I take more white with the tip of my brush, and because acrylics is not like oil, you really have to keep on adjusting the values all the time. It dries darker. Now let's do this part. Which is higher. And then okay, let's take some darker gray, put it inside if possible. Here we go. Wait for it to dry and I'll adjust it. I'm not worried about this because I can adjust it with the color of her sleeve and work from the outside. A little bit of white. And again, white. I need water. All right. Okay. In my brush. Rim. I'm putting more white where the rim is. And I will be adjusting this color too. I will be putting more white. I know it's going to dry darker. So a suggestion. It doesn't have to be a 100%. I think this is good. I should be very careful what I'm doing right now because I might lift color if I'm not careful because the color is not, the paint is not dry. Oh, we're seeing too much white. It's really not that white. It's the camera, it's the cast, there's a lot of light here. It's better. Okay. So then darker than what you're seeing on the monitor. Slightly darker, more gray. And if you get a bit of, pink, more reddish, that's okay. Don't try to cover it up. Don't try to change it. That's why it's nice to combine these three colors to create a gray, because this gray is never the same. It's not like squeezing black and white. We could do that. We could squeeze black and white and do that, but this is much nicer because you get different shades of colors in there. Different. Sometimes it's more blue. Sometimes it's more pink. It's much more variety than mixing one color. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a bit in here. And then I'm gonna grab some white, mix it with the gray. A little bit more white. And just try to do the rim here. I'm not going to see too much of the rim because of the cheesecake. Should bring the coffee itself down a bit. It's too high. It's better. All right. This is drying kind of in here. It's drying kind of uh, patchy. So I'm gonna fix it a bit. All right. I'm gonna bring a bit of white, tiny bit of white into my gray, and it's actually better if I wait for it to dry and then glaze glaze the white on instead of having a heavy, thick white. Just a bit. I'm just gonna just the top, not the whole, not all the way down. Just keep the bottom part darker. Now I'm going to do the same for the plate. Simple. Take the same. Very quickly. Three colors, mix them together, get a gray, tiny bit of more red, maybe a little bit more red. And put the first layer. I can adjust this cheesecake later on. I'm not worried about that. Let's make it round. And take it again, blue, and let's take red, blue, red, some yellow. Make a dark color in here. I'll put a strong dark shadow down here. Darken this part in the back. Darken that part, this one. And start now bringing some white. You know what I'm doing right now? I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be painting something like this without a proper reference. If it doesn't work, I will find a reference and use it. I'm going to stop right now and then I'll continue when I find a proper reference to make sure it's right. All right, last thing I'm going to do is put the coffee inside, and I'm using burnt umber, just burnt umber, nothing else. In here. And that's really enough for the coffee in here. Maybe a little bit of ultramarine blue with my burnt umber to make it darker. Maybe darker on the here sides. A little bit of, let's take a bit of white and adjust this. Okay, that's good. And that's enough for today. Let's we'll continue next week.